A warning before we begin. This is a chilling story, inspired by terrifying true events. What you are about to hear may be deeply unsettling. Listen at your own risk.
She had always imagined Paris as the city of lights and romance, a postcard-perfect dream. But in reality, the days were gray, the streets overwhelming, and the nights lonelier than she expected. Still, she reminded herself, she was lucky to be here. How many people got the chance to study abroad? After a long evening at university, her studies dragging into the late hours, she rushed down into the metro to catch the last train home. Her French was far from fluent, but she could understand just enough to get by. When she reached the platform, she saw more people than expected for this late hour. A distant rumble echoed in the tunnel, and soon the train arrived. The doors hissed open, and she stepped inside, finding a seat in a section with 6 places, 3 facing the other 3. Across from her, 2 men sat with a young woman between them. They were sitting so close that their shoulders pressed against hers. Maybe they're a couple, or brothers, she thought to herself. It looked strange, but she ignored it. She pulled out her phone. It was one of the few things that made her feel connected to home. Scrolling through social media, she tried to distract herself from the noise of the train. But after a few minutes, a sense of unease slowly crept over her. As she glanced up, she realized why. The young woman across from her was staring at her. Her stare was sharp, almost predatory, and sent a shiver down the student's spine. She tried to focus on her phone, but she could feel the woman's eyes on her, drilling into her. Finally, the student glanced up again. The woman's head was tilted downward, but her dark eyes peered up through long, messy strands of black hair. Her expression was blank, yet her stare was unnervingly intense. The student tried to smile, a polite gesture, a silent hello, but the woman didn't react. That's when she noticed the 2 men flanking the woman. Each of them had a hand on one of her arms, gripping her tightly. The woman didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. Maybe she's drunk or sick. The student's mind raced for an explanation, something that could make sense of what she was seeing. Prochain arrêt, Gare de Lyon, a robotic voice announced over the speakers, calling out the next stop. The mood in the carriage shifted. Other passengers began moving uneasily, whispering to one another. Everyone stood up, heading toward the doors. The student frowned. Why was everyone so tense? The train slowed to a stop, and just as the doors slid open, everyone rushed to get off, almost in a panic, eager to leave. Suddenly, she felt a hand grip her arm. Startled, she looked up. An older man with gray-streaked hair and a serious expression stood beside her. His French was quick and sharp, but she could pick out a few words. "You, off this stop." "What?" she stammered, switching to English in her confusion. He hesitated, then repeated in slow, accented English. "You must get off, now." "But this isn't—" "Trust me," he interrupted, his voice low and firm. "I am a doctor. This is your stop. Please." His eyes were urgent, almost pleading. Her first instinct was to resist. She didn't want to seem rude, and besides, she barely understood what was happening. But something in his tone made her stand up and follow him. The 2 of them stepped out onto the platform just before the doors closed. She turned to look back at the carriage, catching one last glimpse of the woman and the men. The woman's head was still tilted, her blank stare fixed in place. The men remained close, their hands gripping her arms like a lifeless puppet. On the platform, the other passengers were murmuring anxiously, their voices a low hum of fear. The man who had pulled her off turned to face her. His expression was serious. "The young woman on the train," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "Those men were holding her arms because she wasn't alive. Her neck was broken.